Hello folks, Josh here from the Phoenix Club, just offering a quick reaction to the news that we've all been waking up to today, which is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been appointed the permanent manager of my club, Manchester United. So I just want to start really by saying that this appointment, to me, makes complete sense based on what we've already seen so far. I mean, the way that he's transformed that United side pretty much overnight, you could be forgiven for not realising that, with the exception of Marouane Fellaini leaving and the additions of a few of the academy graduates, that this group of players is actually pretty identical to the one Jose had effectively drained of ability, creativity and desire. And as a point of comparison between Jose and Ole, after finishing 19 points behind City in the league and losing arguably the most boring FA Cup final in living memory, us United fans could be forgiven for having thought that things could only get better from there. Obviously though, as we know, Jose's United had other ideas, and following a humbling defeat to our most bitter rivals Liverpool, the Portuguese was fired, with the club in 6th place, 11 points off Chelsea in 4th. Fast forward 6 days, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's United side thumped his former side Cardiff 5-1, kick-starting a 6-game winning streak in the league, having won only one of the previous 6. And one of the biggest criticisms that I had of Jose was the defensive style of play, the way in which United would only make even the faintest threat of attacking if they had already gone behind. People talk about the United way, and I'm sure that each person has their own definition or interpretation of exactly what that means. But I can guarantee that whatever football United were playing under Mourinho was not it. Ole has immediately reversed that, and the fact that we scored 7 more goals in his first 6 league games than in Jose's last 6 shows that. And fair enough that critics and sceptics were saying it's only Cardiff, it's only Huddersfield, it's only Bournemouth. But the team following the stock phrase, "it's only," was becoming more significant the longer the winning and unbeaten streaks went on. And this was signalled by the victories over Spurs, one of the league's best teams, both offensively and defensively, and Brighton, both of whom had already beaten United earlier on in the season under Mourinho. But, of course, the victories didn't just happen upon Solskjaer's arrival. It was the style of play that he had immediately implemented that got closer to exemplifying just what the United way is, more than any other post-Ferguson manager has been able to. I mean, the pacey, energetic wingers being at the heart of the action, various members of the attacking force linking up and scoring a plethora of goals, the fullbacks making overlapping runs to create chances, and chipping in with assists, and more latterly, having 2 strikers and giving youth a chance. And let's not forget the amount of key players either threatening to leave or looking like they were going to be on their way out, including Anthony Martial, Paul Pogba, Romelu Lukaku, with Martial having already secured his long-term future now at the club by signing a new contract, and the other two looking far happier and quite frankly flourishing also more now than they ever did under Mourinho. And on that note, my next point is of belief really. Let's not forget the words of Mourinho that have acted as a motivating factor for those United players since his departure, when he said that for United to get into the top 4 this season would be a miracle. And with the team 11 points behind 4th at the time of his departure, his estimation wasn't really a million miles away, if I'm honest. But fast forward just under 2 months on from that, the defeat to Liverpool and a 3-0 victory away to Fulham helped United to achieve what Jose had deemed the impossible. Granted, we've been yo-yoing in and out of 4th spot since then, but the fact that we are even in contention and that multiple experts had even been tipping us to be finishing in the 3rd spot following Spurs' drop in form recently shows just how far we have come under Solskjaer. And surely the credit has to go to Solskjaer for reinstilling that confidence in those players that they are good enough and that they are capable of breaking into the top 4 and even nabbing that 3rd spot. Usually, quite frankly, it irritates me how clubs, mine included, see the top 4 as some sort of holy grail, that if you finish 4th, it's somehow as good as, if not better, than winning a trophy. But for what finishing in the top 4 represents for United, and I'm talking specifically about this season, and for the way in which it would demonstrate just how far we've come, not just under Solskjaer, but because of Solskjaer and Phelan and Carrick and McKenna, and how their belief in the players has become infectious, then I think that for one season only, I think we can say, you know what, let's just use the rest of this season now as a springboard for the following season. Because the progress and sudden transformation that our players have experienced over the last 3 to 4 months is far more indicative of future success to me than at least 2 of the current top 6 can boast at this moment in time. And without even talking about the match, which will undoubtedly go on to define Solskjaer's United career. Whether he leaves tomorrow, in the summer, or in 10 years' time, you know, much of how the third cup round victory over Nottingham Forest in 1990 did for Ferguson, obviously that is the recent Champions League round of 16 second leg victory over PSG. Indeed, the rumours were already flying around about how Jose was sacked in the aftermath of the draw, with the board underconfident that he would be the right man to produce a side capable of overcoming a team that boasts some of the best attacking talent in the world. I mean, Neymar and Mbappe, just to name 2. And indeed, after the first leg 2-0 defeat at home, no less, there was the feeling that not even a change in personnel, not even someone that knew the club, would be enough for United to overcome the Parisians. And yet, fast forward a couple of weeks, and United did not look remotely deflated nor beaten. And they were into that game feeling essentially that they could beat any team in the world. And the way that they were constantly pushing PSG's back line literally from start to finish exemplifies that. But for comparative purposes, let's just imagine for a second how that second leg would have looked under Moyes, LVG and Mourinho. So David Moyes, he'd have preceded the game by stating that Manchester United aspires to be like Paris Saint-Germain, having probably already tried to prize Neymar away from them in the summer before seeing United fall to another 2-0 defeat, having brought Marouane Fellaini on in the 75th minute as a replacement for Marcus Rashford. LVG, he'd have seen his side lose 1-0, but that would only have been after breaking the Guinness World Record for the longest ever game of keep ball, finishing the game with 95% possession, having brought Marouane Fellaini on as a 75th minute substitution for Mr. Mike Smalling. And Jose Mourinho would have most likely, have overseen a 3-1 defeat, having brought Marouane Fellaini on as a replacement for Romelu Lukaku, and shifting Marcus Rashford out wide before declaring in his post-match press conference that United were lucky that it was only 3-1 to PSG, and that all the injuries United had made meant that defeat was inevitable, before reminding the whole world about trophies that he's won a decade ago, like an army veteran reminding us that he risked his life for our freedom. Yes, so Solskjaer didn't have or need any excuses prepared. He knew that his side had the ability to see off PSG, and I believe that because he believed it, his players did too. And sometimes it's just something as simple as getting that belief from your manager that you are good enough, that you can make all the difference between winning and losing. And just quickly, whilst we are on the subject of Marouane Fellaini, isn't it funny how one of the first things Ole did was sanction the sale of the Belgian to China? Potentially one of only 2 footballers in the entire world that can't actually use their feet alongside Alvaro Morata. And for some godforsaken reason, he was seen by each of Moyes, LVG and Jose as some sort of footballing deity. And you have to feel that our build-up play, particularly in the closing stages of games, particularly ones that we've not been doing so well in, has been significantly improved with the absence of Fellaini as some sort of target man. But ultimately, I don't want to dwindle on him for too long. So my final point, which is ironically a bit of a shorter one, is that Solskjaer is, or at least could be, a manager for the long term. Now, I know they already tried that with David Moyes, but I think it became very clear very early on that personality-wise, he just isn't the right fit for Manchester United. In a recent interview, the Scot did state that his intention was evolution, not revolution, but that doesn't exactly explain why he, wiped out the entire backroom staff and replaced them with essentially amateurs. It also doesn't explain why he insisted that Rio and Vidic, both of whom had won more trophies as a defensive partnership than Moyes could even count to, started watching videos of Phil Jagielka in order to learn how to defend better. Yes, so it also goes nowhere really to explaining how he managed to send United to record-breaking defeats against teams that I don't think they'd even lost to since the Matt Busby eras. And then, of course, there was the defensive duo, Louis van Gaal and Jose Mourinho. Quite frankly, if they put as much effort into attacking as they did into their press conferences, well, I think we'd have won every trophy going. And we certainly would have achieved more than 3 major trophies across their 4 seasons in charge. But let's face it, neither of them were there for the long haul. They were both intended to be short-term fixes for a far bigger problem. Manchester United isn't a club like Man City or Chelsea, in the sense that United's squads aren't built on the philosophy of whichever manager is there this week. With United, it's not about having a manager that adapts to the club, nor is it about having a club that adapts to the manager. It's about finding a manager that fits the club and already understands its history and uses that history to influence its future. And as somebody that scored the most famous goal in the history of the club, and as somebody that learned from, in my view, the greatest manager of all time, and played in one of the greatest sides ever, and brought that philosophy and mentality into the present day, there can only surely be few managers better suited to the job at this moment in time than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So those are my thoughts on the matter. I deliberately avoided comparisons with Roberto Di Matteo. Let me know what you think, whether you disagree or agree with me. And if you've got any questions, then please comment them below and I'll try and respond to them if I can. So the final thing for me to say really is congratulations, Ollie, if you've managed to watch this video somehow. We are all behind you at the wheel. And I think we're now entering a really exciting time as Manchester United fans. But anyway, I'm Josh. Thanks for watching.